Hello and welcome to Business Incorporated live on Channels Television. It's another trading week right here, and we'll be tracking what's playing out with the local bourse and global markets. Here are the stories you should be watching at this point. Dangote Petroleum Refinery says its recent petrol price cut stems from its own pricing strategy, not the federal government's 15% import tariff suspension. And we see startups in Nigeria are skipping local IPOs as a weak naira undermines the value of dollar-raised capital. Plus, Iran's non-oil exports to Africa surges 100% in the first half of 2025 to $675 million as Tehran bets on the continent as a high-growth market despite sanctions. And it's good to have you join us. Let's get a check now what's playing out in the markets that we track, starting with metals. See gold prices held steady today as investors, they're waiting a raft of U.S. economic data this week for clues on the Federal Reserve's interest rate trajectory, and we're seeing the impact there. It's mostly red right there with metals that we track, like the palladium, down a big 1.75%, but we see spot silver. That's the only one shining there, holding on to that $50 level per ounce. That's for spot silver. U.S. gold futures, that's at $4,078. Also, spot gold holding on to that $4,000 level by a hair's breadth, 0.40% down for U.S. gold futures. So that's a picture right there in the metals market. Let's get a check now on what's playing out with oil. We're seeing oil prices are down today. Loading resumed at Russia's Novorossiysk export hub after a two-day suspension at a Black Sea port that had been hit by a Ukrainian attack. And we see Brent crude dropped about 45 cents. That's 0.7% to $63.94 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude, that was about 46 cents, 0.8% at $59.63 a barrel. So that's the picture right there. In the oil market, we're seeing it down right there in the trading in the afternoon. All right, to other stories now. Dangote Petroleum Refinery says its recent cut in petrol prices is a result of its own pricing adjustments, not the federal government suspension of the 15% import tariff. The company reduced PMS gantry prices from 877 naira to 828 naira per liter. That was November 6th. A move, it says, was misrepresented in some media reports. Dangote reiterates its commitment to supplying high-quality, competitively priced fuel while countering misleading narratives in the market. So that's the latest update right there for fuel prices. To other stories now. TLP Advisory saying that Nigerian startups have shunned local listings amid a naira volatility, with Nigerian startups largely avoiding local stock market listings, with the current volatility and foreign exchange risk cited as key deterrents. A survey by TLP Advisory shows more than two-thirds of young tech companies prefer dollar-denominated funding and exits, leaving the Nigerian Exchange's Technology Board underutilized despite its easier listing rules. Since its creation in 2022, a single startup has leveraged the platform, even as the country has produced several unicorns, including likes of Flutterwave, OPay, InterSwitch, and Della, and MoneyPoint. Analysts are now urging the exchange to explore dual or cross-listing options with global markets to attract foreign investment and provide viable exit strategy for the founders there. So that's what the latest data is showing us there. All right, now to southern parts of Africa. We see Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe says it has almost hit a milestone of $1 billion. That's in foreign currency reserves, reporting approximately $918 million. The BOZ, that's the backing of the Zimbabwe gold currency, and strengthening the case for, and that's strengthening the case for a future move to monocurrency regime. That's according to the central bank right there in Zimbabwe. And Iran's non-oil exports to Africa, that surged 100% in the first half of its calendar year, reaching $675 million as the country ramps up the trade ties with the continent, according to the head of Africa office at Iran's Trade Promotion Organization. So we're seeing big moves there for their non-oil exports and that's what's coming into Africa. All right, now to our first conversation, we're talking about driving transparency and investor confidence in Nigeria's market. We see the 2025 SEC NCMI Annual Capital Market Compliance Summit is set to spotlight key reforms, innovation, and investor protection in Nigeria's financial market. Let's find out more now, and definitely we'll get a guest joining us from Abuja once she gets there. But joining me right here in the Lagos studio, we have Roymot Ajiboye. She's the Chief Compliance Officer at Roku. So join me right here in the studio. Great to have you. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so, definitely a lot of talk about markets in Nigeria as a capital market. Now we're getting, a whole new asset class, also coming into, this market. Talk to me about what's played out so far with the ISA 2025. That's the ISA, 2025. We see President Bola Tinubu signed the Investment and Securities Act. What's been the impact so far, post-signing?
Well, for the new Investment and Securities Act, it's just all about we trying to drive the innovation. We're trying to ensure that all the rules that have been set into the ISA 2025 are now fully implemented. So it's just all about understanding the guidelines, understanding the what is required of us as a virtual asset service provider or digital assets operator in this space. It's about knowing what to implement, about turning what have been set into the provisions of the law into practicability. So that's what I would say what we are trying to do as a firm to ensure that everything that has been set into the rule are practically possible and put in a way that we are ensuring compliance, we are enforcing the rule of the law. And it will also help the regulators to know the particular guidance to set for digital assets providers in the space.
Right. So you guys are also serving like some kind of advisory role to the regulator.
Well,
somehow.
It's more like it's a collaborative approach because the regulators are there to set the guidance, they're there to set the law, but we are the ones that are seeing this risk on the practical front. We are the ones seeing the customers, we are the ones that know the kind of risk they are seeing in the customers front. So it's more about collaboration. We are about telling the regulators, so these are the things we are seeing on our end. The regulators will then know how to set these rules, how to set the guidance on mitigating against this risk. I mean, it's a collaborative approach. We are all about fighting against financial crime collaboratively. We as a self-compliance exchange for like Roku, we want to be able to actively collaborate with the regulators, collaborate with the likes of SEC, NFIU, to let them know the risk we are seeing so that when they are setting the rule, they would then know the kind of controls that are to be set into place, regulatory compliance procedures that we need to set in place or the regulators need to set in place to fight against financial crime as well as also protecting the investors.
So I see one of the major focus there for the 2025 summit is how to ensure capital markets, inclusion.
Yeah.
And, looking at the digital asset side of things, it seems the youths, are they fully included, in your opinion, or are we trying to add another segment?
I mean, looking at the statistics of Nigeria being the second widely adopted country that adopts our cryptocurrency, I would say that the Nigerian youth have actually adopted cryptocurrency, right? However, the myth that might come into place is the likes of a lack of education, right? People need to understand what they are getting into before they are going to be fully investing into it. So, and for us at Roku, what we have tried to do is to set up Roku Academy. We have an academy where people can actually come to learn, to understand the workings of the blockchain, to understand how they can safely invest into digital assets, to understand the risk that is assigned to it. And another way we have also tried to do this is to engage in a campus ambassadorship. We have a campus tour program where team members are visiting each campus to train people, let them understand what the workings of the blockchain is like. So because people need to understand what they are getting into before they are able to safely invest. I mean, you wouldn't ask me to bring my money into a program when I don't even have an understanding of what it's all about. So I think education is the priority. So I understand that the regulators are actually leading this front, but I think each stakeholders in this space, each asset service provider in this space also should be tasked with these responsibilities to be able to educate the public before they say the youths are not invested. But I do believe that from the statistics we've seen, the youth are actually fully involved in the investing. I mean, I like to invest, and I'm very sure you also like to invest.
Well, I just report the market, at this point. But, talking about this, education, trying to get more people to understand the market before, trying to play in there. Would you say we've made steady progress in Nigeria, or is it too early, to say, okay, this is progress we've made when it comes to education?
Well, I would say we are making progress into it. For example, I do know that regulators in this space are actually involved in education. I attended an event, I think during the International Anti-Corruption Week. EFCC did organized an event on educating digital assets, and we have the likes of secondary school students, we have coppers in the house. And I think that's actually a step in ensuring that they are embedding grassroots education into understanding the workings of the blockchain. So education shouldn't just be at the higher level. We should start from the grassroots. I mean, I believe that Nigeria will get to a stage where we have to incorporate blockchain education into the curriculum of secondary school students. I think that would help people to understand, so that if you are even teaching students in class, their parents that might not know what the blockchain space or what digital assets is all about can actually go back home to say, oh, Mom, I learned about this and this, how you can do this, how you can invest, this, how you can do this. They don't necessarily even have to start investing, so to speak. It's all about understanding. If you understand that, oh, this thing can actually fetch me a fortune, then you will know what to put into it. So the regulators are doing that, and I do believe that stakeholders in the space are also doing that. For example, like I said, my company, Roku, we are active, we are very bullish about education. We go to campus. I mean, we've organized over 5 campus stores. Even in the north, we are taking it back to the grassroots. We are taking it to the market women. We want them to understand how they can safely invest, how they can turn their 5,000 naira into 10,000 naira by investing. And also about securing their future as well. I mean, I also want to bank on 1 billion naira I'm saving in the future.
I can imagine my 10-year-old, coming to me and saying, Daddy, buy me a Bitcoin.
You can imagine, exactly.
At this point, and I'm like, I don't know how to buy a Bitcoin.
You need to learn.
All right, so, what kind of conversations are, chief compliance officers like yourself, in the whole, space? What kind of conversations are you guys having?
So one thing that we want to see a regulated digital asset space. We want to ensure that the mythical approach to digital assets being a means of financial crime is set to be. We want to ensure that with the new Investment and Securities Act that have been signed into law, we want the regulators to be able to turn it into practicability, set out guidelines, set out rules, set out what is expected of us to comply. While the Investment and Securities Act has provided us the rules of the law, I mean, there's guidelines, there's practical approach that we need to set into place. So we want a practical approach whereby we can encourage information sharing, collaboration with the law enforcement officers, collaboration with other regulators and other stakeholders in this space. And I think that's why the NCMI Summit is going to be a very step to achieving this. You are speaking with the regulators, you are speaking with your fellow compliance officer, you're talking about processes, you're talking about how you can set out the rule that have been set into practicability. Remember, we compliance officers, we are not just there to follow the law. We are also ensure to find a balance. I mean, while I'm also protecting the company, I'm also ensuring that I'm not opening the company into a risk. And for me to be able to do that, I need to do that in accordance to what the law has set into me. So it's about understanding what the law is saying and turning it to practicability, ensuring that I am converting this to my operational processes in my own company.
Fantastic. So, we're not having this conversation alone. I learned now that Ms. Safia Musa Yabo, she's the head AML CFT division, SEC Nigeria. She's right there at our Abuja studio. Thank you for joining us. It's great to have you on the show, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so let me bring you into the conversation now. We know the inaugural Nigerian Capital Market Compliance Summit, that was held last year. Up to this point, what successes can you say we've achieved so far, from that one?
Okay. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me on the program. As you mentioned, the Compliance Summit, the Maiden Compliance Summit, took place last year, 2024, which had over 400 participants from the Nigerian capital market ecosystem in attendance. And based on the assessment that was done, we saw a significant and positive impact in compliance. The program succeeded in taking compliance to the next level in the Nigerian capital market. We saw compliance understanding, being improved, and we saw the rate of compliance by regulated entities in terms of complying with their regulatory obligations also rising up. So it was really a good one. The SEC engaged the entire capital market community, and we have succeeded, in moving compliance to the next level in the Nigerian capital market.
All right, so we know we recently celebrated removal from the gray list, by FATF. Can you explain in simple terms what this means and what needs to be done to continue to remain off the gray list, by different stakeholders in the Nigerian capital market?
Okay, thank you very much for this question. The gray list issue is in line of the Financial Action Task Force recommendations. Nigeria was evaluated, mutual evaluation of the country was held in 2019. And based on gaps seen in our regulatory framework, the country was referred to what they call the International Cooperation Review Group process. And subsequently, the country was also gray listed. And Nigeria was given a timeline between 2023 to 2025, May precisely, to exit the gray list. We were given about 84 recommended actions and more than 300 associated tasks. And the key stakeholders in Nigeria, all the relevant entities, the law enforcement agencies, the regulators, and the private sector work hand in hand, round the clock, to ensure that the country exits the gray list. And we have succeeded, in exiting by the deadline, which was May 2025. And Nigeria's clean bill was given after the conduct of the FATF plenary in Paris in October. And we really appreciate the political will we have gotten from Mr. President and the entire line ministers, the Minister of Finance, Minister of Interior, the Attorney General of the Federation. We work hand in hand, and also our executives, and especially the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, who gave us all the support we needed to exit based on our own requirements. So it was a good one. We have exited, but there's a lot of work to be done because it's very important for us to sustain the process. Sustainability is the key word there, and we need to continue working to sustain what we have achieved. And not because the FATF is asking us to do that, no, but because we also need to fight the menace of money laundering, terrorism financing, and the proliferation financing to safeguard our system, to safeguard the financial system, and to safeguard Nigeria, and also in readiness for the third mutual evaluation exercise, which is scheduled to hold in 2027.
All right, yeah, so much to unpack there, and definitely be looking forward to that summit. But we've run out of time now. Thank you so much for coming on. Mrs. Safia Musa Yabo, she's the head AML, CFT Division, Securities and Exchange Commission, Nigeria, and right here in Lagos studio, Roy Mota Jiboye, she's the Chief Compliance Officer at Roku. Thank you for coming on, you both.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, so now we'll take a check now what's playing out with markets that we track. Let's kick off with the African continent. We see this mixed sentiment seen at intraday there. NGX 0.17%. Seems we might be starting this week on the lower side of things. Johannesburg Stock Exchange 112, 0.16% up. We'll flip over to other markets that we track. Now let's get a check on what's playing out in still EGX 30, 0.50% down. Nairobi Stock Exchange, Friday close 0.05%. All right, let's take it on now to Europe. Let's get a check on what's playing out in Europe. We have Lars Holter right there. Hello, Lars. Great to have you on the show.
Hello, Lottie. How you doing?
Fantastic. I'm doing great. What's it looking like in markets in Europe today?
Yeah, Lottie, unfortunately, we're seeing some weakness again today. The DAX under 24,000 points, but we've seen this pattern a lot over the past few months, of course. This is the level where buyers usually creep back into the market. But will they this time? And that's really not sure, Lottie, because this week there's a bit of nervousness in markets. And that has to do with the fact that obviously we've been talking a lot in recent weeks, in recent months, about the fact that there might just be an AI bubble. Specifically, of course, that would be mostly true for markets in the United States. And now we are going to get these quarterly numbers from NVIDIA. So everybody's a little bit anxious. And you can feel that talking to people in the European markets as well, that everybody's waiting for these numbers, seeing whether they deliver or whether there is a bit more problems that we have.
And there's also news from the government of the economy, apparently some new measures to help bring growth back. What are the latest plans here?
Well, you know, Lottie, the timing of all this is interesting. Just last week, the German government was roundly criticized by its own Economic Advisory Council. They gave the governing coalition a C- for their handling of the economy. And they warned that we won't see much more growth anytime soon if the government wouldn't step up its game. And now they did indeed do that. They announced a few ideas. Many of them had been discussed for a while. So let me tell you a little bit about it. Among the biggest problems for the German economy, of course, were or still are high energy prices. They were especially painful for those energy-intense businesses in the steel industry and chemicals and such. Now, these energy-intense businesses will now get their own price for energy, 5 cents only per kilowatt hour, and that's around half of what they're currently paying. Now, one problem, of course, the Council of Economic Advisors just last week said that a special discount for those companies is not much more than a band-aid, and that the government should tackle high energy prices on a much broader level. But, you know, at least we're seeing a first step here.
All right, and what other measures is the government trying to explore now? What have they announced to support the economy?
Yeah, Ladi, you know, the other big one is also addressing energy needs, and maybe it's a step closer to what the Advisory Council had in mind here. Berlin says they will build 8 more gas-powered power plants. Now, this has long been a very controversial topic, as, of course, we've been trying to get out of fossil energies for a while, but it seems we need to just generate more energy. Now, up to 10 gigawatt hours is what these plants should bring, but they won't be on the grid, of course, until 2031. In further news, the government is officially starting its much-discussed Germany fund that is meant as an addition to an already established 500 billion euro investment in infrastructure. Now, Ladi, this fund is expected to invest in growth and innovation. According to the government, it's specifically designed to support defense-oriented startups as well as new technologies in energy. And then another point, lower airport fees. Now, that certainly doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is. Germany has the highest airport fees of all the industrial countries, and that's what that has led to 2 problems. Germans pay more for air travel, and they are much worse served. There's fewer flights offered here, and now this might see some change. All in all, air travel might improve here pretty soon, and for a global player like Germany with such an internationally connected economy, that is an important step as well.
Fantastic. Well, we'll keep tracking that. Brand new trading week right here. Thank you so much, Lars, for the details.
Thank you, Ladi.
All right, so some crypto stories now. We see over the weekend, Lagos played host to Tsunami, a one-day experience that brought together builders, creators, and innovators to explore the evolving SUI ecosystem set in the heart of Nigeria's commercial capital. The event offered participants hands-on interactions, immersive demonstrations, and discussions on the latest developments in blockchain and digital innovation. Tsunami Lagos provided a platform for networking, learning, and collaboration, highlighting how community-driven initiatives are shaping the future of decentralized technology and inspiring a new generation of explorers and creators in Africa's tech space.
Today we are focusing on the SUI blockchain, and we believe that every person that comes here, first feel caters to a lot of young people, gives them opportunities, job opportunities, a chance to showcase their skills. So I believe this event educates and gives them opportunities. We need more events like this in Nigeria to, attract more investors, attract blockchain, and get them to get interest in Nigeria. So I believe every participant here will be going home with more knowledge and more equipment to build and upskill.
Swift blockchain is actually one of the first blockchains for this generation. It's actually a third generation blockchain. We'll use that. And basically, the entire premise for Swift is very, very simple. Blockchains, but for today. We've seen Bitcoin and Ethereum behave like they are blockchains for the past, and we've seen even newer blockchains, but they do not really provide what we need for the future in terms of blockchain. And then Swift is now this full stack blockchain that provides every single thing you need to build Web3 apps, from the database itself, which is the blockchain, and then Swift also goes into orchestration. So you can also do other primitives from storage to secrets and all of that, and then still control them from Swift. So that's actually what the code thing is. Swift has not just built a database and then left it at that. They built other things that actually help you build your entire Web3 stack on the blockchain as well.
All right, the education continuing for Nigeria's digital asset space. And we see the call in the market there, Bitcoin there full on in the red, and we see that sell-off continue. But Ethereum, that's holding on. Some of the headlines now see the UK's newest approach to stablecoin regulation has drawn a mix of praise and concern from the digital asset sector there. Sparked some outrage. And we see Japan, they're set to reduce their cryptocurrency tax to 20%. And, that's a new one there. We know the government looking to tax this asset. Then digital asset ETPs, they've seen a $2 billion outflow with the sell-offs that we're seeing right there. So we'll give you more updates on what's playing out with most of these markets that we track. But that's the first one for this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye for now.